So far, we have made a profound error in how we organized our civilization. We placed the collective over the individual. Historically, that made a certain kind of sense. In a world defined by physical scarcity and slow communication, we needed massive groups just to survive, or to harvest crops and build infrastructure. We assumed that because a group of people is physically stronger than a single person, a group must also be smarter. But this is an illusion. The truth is, the collective is mathematically, functionally, and fundamentally less intelligent than a single sovereign individual. Now, a collective is highly effective at one thing: collecting data. 1,000 people can gather more information across a wider area than one person can. But data is not knowledge, and data is certainly not truth. To turn raw data into actual knowledge, it must be synthesized, it must be processed, filtered through logic, and aligned with actual reality. That process, the act of making sense of the world and defining the most reasonable truth, can only happen within the architecture of a single independent mind. Now, you might ask the obvious question: why shouldn't a collective be able to do this? Why can't a group of people just think independently, bring their results to the table, compare them, and have the collective pick the best, most truthful idea? It sounds great in theory, but in reality it fails. And the reason is very simple. A collective is naturally a consensus-seeking entity, not a truth-seeking entity. For a group to seek what is most likely to be true, it must predefine that truth is the highest pursuit above all else. But the problem is, as a group grows, this becomes exponentially harder because human biology and social dynamics get in the way. Inside any collective, there are hidden vectors running in the background. There's the desire for social status. There's the fear of being exiled from the group. There are friendships, mating dynamics, emotional dependencies. When an individual presents a radical truth to the collective doesn't ask, is this true? The collective asks, how does this affect our social dynamics? If the truth is uncomfortable, the collective will reject the truth to preserve the comfort of the group. This is why committees rarely innovate. This is why bureaucracies stagnate. The individual, however, when liberated from the fear of the herd, is a purely truth-seeking entity. When you sit alone in a room reasoning from fundamentals, you do not have to negotiate with the ego of a committee. You do not have to bend the laws of physics to avoid offending someone. You can look purely at reality. You become a true conscious architect and the ultimate director of intent. And this leads us to one of the most fascinating phenomena of human organization, and a dynamic that I call Gisbrecht's paradox. Gisbrecht's paradox states this: if you want to build a highly unified, cooperative, cohesive, and advanced collective, you must completely abandon the collective as your starting point. You must start entirely with the individual. When society starts by forcing the individual, demanding consensus, demanding conformity, you end up in a lose-lose situation. You crush the sovereign mind, you suppress innovation, and ironically, you create deep division because individuals secretly resent the system that keeps them from seeking truth. But when you empower the individual first, when you grant the individual absolute freedom, independence, and technological leverage to execute their own vision within the bounds of the law, something beautiful happens. Empowering the individual actually brings the collective closer together. Think about it. When you're fully sovereign, when you're actively stepping onto your own advancement vector and operating at your highest potential, you no longer view other people as competitors for limited resources. You no longer view them as your social, as a threat to your social status. For the first time, you can see clearly, you can look across the frontier and truly appreciate, respect, and honor other individuals too. You recognize the greatness in them because you have cultivated it yourself. Yeah, so only fully formed independent individuals can engage in truly mutual partnerships. Only sovereign creators can effectively share knowledge and create a true win-win civilization. We are entering an era where Gisbrecht's paradox is no longer just a philosophy, it is a physical reality. With the rise of artificial intelligence and the cognitive exoskeleton, the individual no longer needs the collective bureaucracy to build massive things. Today, a single mind can direct intelligent systems to execute complex code, design aerospace hardware, and solve biological mysteries. We no longer have to compromise our truth to get things done. The age of putting the collective over the individual is over. We do not need to fight the old system. It is simply becoming obsolete. We're building the new. We're moving, literally, into a networked civilization of sovereign creators, a polycentric league of individuals who choose to connect not out of weakness or need, but out of strength, greatness, and reason. I want to end with this. The universe is vast and waiting for those who are willing to organize it. So claim your agency, define your problems, and build.